So we just recently talked about the process of identifying root cause for behaviors, and this really becomes tricky with other people. Um, so there will be people in your life, I'm sure I don't need to tell you, that will behave in ways that seem really, really counterintuitive. Um, there are people that may seem to antagonize you. There are people, well-meaning people, folks, perhaps even in your lodge, that may not treat you the way you would like to be treated or expect to be treated. There are generally a couple of ways to go about resolving these issues. Um, First things first, if you can get back to alignment. So in our ritual, the construction of the temple is central to the conversation, and so using the temple as a concept for aligning, people's intent. Say, listen, I'm not sure, what your intent here is. My intent is as follows. If you're aligned on intent in any of the conversations you might be having with others, the rest of the conversation then becomes a little bit sort of easier. Now, some folks will find it in their day-to-day behavior to be abrasive or to be demeaning, and there's reasons for that. There are obvious reasons for most people. They're seeking, some sort of deference or superiority complex, or some sort of approval or validation, or whatever those sort of needs might be. So you can dismiss some of the smaller order behaviors with people when it comes to stuff like that, so long as they're not imminently disruptive. But when it comes to the bigger order stuff, where it's like, we're at cross purposes, we don't have an aligned objective, then the work that you would want to do should be spent on aligning to mission, or using the temple symbolism. What temple are we building here? From there, working through the approaches to solving that problem, um, there will very likely be a situation in your professional or Masonic life where um, you will have agreement in principle on a direction, but you'll have disagreement on the methodologies that you might use to solve the problem. And so this is a great place to start testing out some of the working tools that you're using. Um, you know, lay out your work, lay out the conversation that you want to have, walk folks through the step by step, and be open to the notion that you might be wrong, and you might be right, and neither of those justify getting abused or being abusive. So, as you work through those sort of steps to get from point A to point B, um, the working through the mechanics of the conversation, the tactical hows and ins and outs, like, hey, I think what you just said seems pretty dismissive of my perspective. Being able to assert yourself on a sort of a specific basis will help maintain that alignment to the overall objective, and at the same time give you the chance to really work in a way that's more productive. Asking questions like, you just said something, what was the intent? What are you driving to? What are you trying to get to? Don't be afraid as well in conversations that are difficult like this. And there's books, tons of books on how to have hard conversations, but don't be afraid to reiterate your understanding of their point. Say, listen, I'm not sure I understand this, but what I think I heard was X or Y or Z. Um, and as you do that, as you start to take almost a like a research scientist or an archaeological approach. I wonder why this is this way, or can you help me understand a little bit better as to why you're saying this or why you're doing this? And it's much harder to do this, I recognize, when somebody's being intentionally abrasive or demeaning. Um, but that's not your worry, right? That's just essentially signal, it's noise in a signal, right? Your worry is to get that alignment and then move from a tactical, perspective through the steps you're going to need to execute your vision. And so as you start doing this work, as you start sort of really embracing that this is going to be an uncomfortable spot for you and probably for them when you're having these conversations, as you work through these things, you'll find that your ability to let the noise in a conversation sort of dissipate or ignore it, and only focus on the mission, will help you get a whole lot further in your quests to interact well with the people you care about.